Welcome back to The Lost Tactician, where history's greatest survival strategies meet the raw ingenuity of those who refuse to surrender. Today, we're going deep, literally. Imagine standing on what appears to be ordinary ground, perhaps the rolling hills of central Turkey or the wind-swept plateaus of ancient Persia. The surface reveals nothing unusual: scattered rocks, sparse vegetation, maybe the remnants of a forgotten village. But beneath your feet lies something extraordinary, an entire city carved from living rock, descending 10 stories into darkness. Thousands lived here, prayed here, fought here, and survived here when the world above became too dangerous to inhabit. The question that echoes through these stone corridors is simple yet profound. What threats could be so severe that entire civilizations chose to abandon the sun and build their futures in permanent shadow? Today, we uncover the hidden world beneath our feet and discover why these subterranean marvels represent some of humanity's most ingenious survival engineering. The ancient world was unforgiving. Surface cities, no matter how well fortified with walls and watchtowers, remained vulnerable to the relentless tide of conquest that swept across continents. From the Hittite invasions to the Arab raids of the medieval period, the people of Anatolia, Persia, and beyond faced a brutal reality. Visibility meant vulnerability. Traditional fortifications could be besieged, starved, or breached. But what if the city itself could vanish? What if an entire population could simply disappear beneath the earth, leaving their enemies to wander through empty streets above, unaware that life continued in the depths below? This wasn't fantasy, it was survival architecture at its most brilliant. Cities like Derinkuyu and Kaymakla in Cappadocia could house up to 20,000 people across multiple subterranean levels, each one carefully planned for long-term habitation. These weren't crude caves or temporary shelters. They were complete urban environments with media group, archaeological photos of underground city residential areas, kitchens, chapels, museum artifacts from Cappadocia underground cities, a stock, distribute, equally residential quarters, communal kitchens, wine presses, stables for livestock, chapels for worship, and even schools for children. The decision to build downward rather than upward represented a fundamental shift in defensive thinking, one born from centuries of harsh lessons written in blood and ash. The tactical advantages of an underground city were revolutionary. Consider the nightmare facing any attacking force: no visible walls to breach, no gates to ram, no towers to scale. The entrance passages were deliberately narrow, forcing invaders to advance single file through twisting corridors where defenders held every advantage. One person with a spear could hold off dozens in these claustrophobic tunnels. But the true genius lay in the massive circular stone doors, some weighing several tons, that could be rolled into place from the inside. These weren't simple barricades, they were precisely engineered millstones, fitting perfectly into carved grooves and sealing entire sections of the city. Once closed, they created barriers that ancient siege equipment couldn't hope to penetrate. Even if attackers discovered an entrance, they faced a labyrinth designed for confusion and ambush. False passages led nowhere. Hidden shafts allowed defenders to drop stones or boiling oil on intruders below. Escape tunnels, sometimes stretching for miles, provided evacuation routes if sections became compromised. The psychological impact cannot be overstated. Imagine besieging a city that appears abandoned on the surface, knowing your enemy watches from below, conserving resources while you exhaust yours, searching for entrances. It was warfare through invisibility, turning the very earth into an impenetrable fortress that mocked conventional military strategy. Survival required more than defense. It demanded sustainability. The earth itself became an ally in this regard, providing natural insulation that maintained stable temperatures regardless of surface conditions. In the scorching summers of Anatolia, when surface temperatures could reach unbearable extremes, the underground cities remained cool, hovering around a comfortable 55 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. During brutal winters, that same insulation protected inhabitants from freezing conditions. This passive climate control meant conserving precious fuel resources for cooking and light rather than heating or cooling. Water management showcased equal ingenuity. Deep wells carved through layers of rock tapped into underground aquifers, ensuring supply even during extended sieges when surface water sources might be poisoned or controlled by enemies. Ventilation shafts, some plunging over 200 feet, channeled fresh air through the complex using natural convection currents, a remarkable feat of ancient engineering that understood airflow dynamics without modern physics. Storage chambers held months or even years of provisions: grain, dried fruits, olive oil, wine stored in enormous ceramic vessels. Some cities maintained underground pastures where livestock could graze on fodder, providing fresh meat and dairy even in complete isolation. They even cultivated mushrooms and other fungi in dark chambers, turning the absence of sunlight into an agricultural advantage. While invasion and persecution drove many underground, other threats lurked in the ancient world's shadows. Seismic activity plagued certain regions, and while earthquakes could devastate surface structures, well-designed underground chambers, carved as natural arches into solid rock, could withstand tremendous geological stress. Some scholars suggest epidemic disease played a role. When plague swept through surface populations, those sealed underground could isolate themselves completely, the rock serving as a barrier no pathogen could penetrate. Others point to massive dust storms or volcanic ashfall that could render the surface temporarily uninhabitable. There's even speculation about more mysterious threats. Ancient texts hint at fires from the sky or poisoned winds that drove populations underground for days or weeks. Whether these represented actual astronomical events, extreme weather phenomena, or simply the mythologized memory of traumatic episodes, they suggest a world view where the surface itself could become hostile without warning. Underground cities offered ultimate sanctuary, not just from human enemies, but from nature's unpredictable wrath and invisible killers that pre-modern medicine couldn't comprehend or combat. These ancient survivalists speak to us across millennia with lessons that resonate in our own uncertain age. Their resourcefulness in creating sustainable, self-sufficient communities offers blueprints for modern disaster preparedness and resilience planning. As humanity contemplates colonizing harsh environments, whether underground bunkers for nuclear scenarios or pressurized habitats on Mars, we're essentially rediscovering principles these ancient architects mastered. They understood that true survival meant thinking beyond immediate shelter, to creating complete, functional societies capable of thriving in extreme isolation. Their integration of defense, resource management, environmental control, and psychological resilience into unified architectural solutions demonstrates systems thinking at its finest. Perhaps most importantly, they remind us that survival isn't about fighting against our environment, but working with it, turning apparent disadvantages into strategic assets. When the world above became too dangerous, they didn't surrender. They adapted, transformed their circumstances, and emerged when conditions improved. That's the essence of tactical survival, knowing when to engage, when to withdraw, and how to ensure your community endures, regardless of surface conditions. The stone corridors of Derinkuyu still echo with the footsteps of those who walked them in desperate times. These underground cities stand as monuments to human ingenuity under pressure, proof that our ancestors possessed survival wisdom we're only beginning to reappreciate. If this journey into history's hidden depths has sparked your curiosity, hit that like button and share this video with anyone who appreciates the tactical genius of ancient civilizations. Subscribe to The Lost Tactician for more deep dives into how history's survivors adapted, endured, and ultimately triumphed against impossible odds. Remember, the greatest fortress isn't always the one that stands tallest, but the one your enemy never sees. Until next time, stay tactical, stay curious, and keep exploring the lessons history carved in stone.